Hi, it's me again, Marcus. How are you? I wanted to make a quick video, quick response video as I do promote this quite frequently actually. And the question of the week is basically why are people limited in vocabulary and how can they improve in a foreign language? And so I'm going to talk about a few things that kind of hinder that, and then of course how they can improve. So it's a two-part question, and yeah, so I have things written down as always, and I guess the first thing is I think desire. I guess some people have different goals in language learning. Some people want to just cover the basics, enough to order something maybe, or maybe other people who want to um, try as best they can to master the language and do uh, just understand the language and just deal with it as if it were almost their own language, their mother language, and or their native tongue. And yeah, so that's the first one. So another thing I wrote down was not going in depth enough, and I guess this refers to people who kind of want to just dabble in a language or languages. I think dabbling in languages, like, I know if someone learns a lot of languages at the same time, then the time that if someone learns, let's say, 10 languages at the same time, and there's another person who learns one language at the same, or one language at the same time, let's say two languages at the same time, and in a series of 10 hours. So that would be for one person 1 hour for each language, and for the other person 5 hours for each language. So that person, I think person B may improve more if they're using the same method, same learning method, same books and everything. And person A, that person will he will know more languages, but I don't know. I doubt that the level would be in terms of grammar, vocabulary, etc., maybe accent, pronunciation, etc., would be as good. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, but I guess not going in depth enough. Some people don't know that they're not going in depth enough I don't know, maybe some people think that they're better than they really are. And I guess that kind of clouds the mind. Some people say, "Oh yes, I'm so good," and then they don't know how to say a simple word in a language, or they can't form simple sentences in a language. So I guess it's the person's mindset. If a person is somewhat humble, then maybe that humility will push that person to keep going more in depth, and to get better and better and better, because there's always something else to learn in a language. I mean, we could even learn our own languages. Um, yes. What else? I guess when I learn languages, I always say this in all my videos. I learn German. I learned German, French, and Bavarian, and I want to learn Norwegian as well. When my French is at a B2 level, so high intermediate, according to that test. Yes, and I mean I learned another language. I guess on the side is called sarcasm, and you know, I guess with my sarcasm, people mess with me sometimes. I have my trolls, and I wasn't. I mean, my sarcasm. I would say that my sarcasm is at an intermediate level, and but I wasn't really. I couldn't really be sarcastic. Someone would say something kind of offend me, and I would just kind of take it. And now I know how to react, and I guess that in itself takes learning. I know I'm digressing a little bit, but I guess sarcasm takes takes learning. It's just like a language. You hear something and then you have to react to it in a certain way. Languages are all about communication, and I guess taking something in, understanding it, and then forming something in your mind, and then typing it or saying it or whatever, texting it, etc. And so I've been working on my sarcasm also, be it with my videos on YouTube or at the gym. I worked on my sarcasm tonight. I worked on that for about 30 minutes. It was really nice. Um, So I guess there are people who, okay, back to the point. So another thing that makes people limited in vocabulary, I think, is that when we're learning a language, people, and we're talking to native speakers or maybe non-native speakers who are more advanced than we are in that target language, but usually native speakers in my case, in my experience, and they say, "Oh, you shouldn't really," and you use a word, and they say, "Oh, you shouldn't really use this word. No one really says it," or they say that only in the South, or they say that in the North. So you really shouldn't say that. And I guess I would think to myself, why not? You understand that, and you're a native speaker. Then I would like to understand that also, just in case I'm in some other part of the country where they actually use that word and not some other word. So I want to be ready, but maybe someone who would listen to something like that would kind of limit themselves in a way. Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't learn XYZ word or some other word or phrase or etc. Um, and obviously, a lot of people who stop learning the language, I guess, their vocabulary may reach an intermediate level, high intermediate, or advanced level. Um, but if that person decides to stop learning a language, maybe start learning another language, or just maybe they forget to keep using the language and they think, oh, nothing will happen to the language. I will retain the language. Then I think that can put a damper on the vocabulary and the grammar and everything else that goes along with the aspects of learning a language and the language itself. And if we don't use it, then we lose it. And I think that we all start out as I don't know. I think before before we walk, we have to crawl. Um, and I think unless something serious happens, like a serious accident happens, then we won't really forget how to walk. But uh, unfortunately, it's not the same with language learning. Um, I think that if we don't use it, then we can lose it, and that we should kind of not stop. We should never stop, and I think that's one of the ways to improve in a language, in a foreign language, just to keep going with it. And I guess it's like building a house that we can't see, and that's part of the problem, and I think it's part of the solution. It could be part of the problem for some people when they think that the house is built, but they think that the house is built, but there's no real foundation, so they stop building the language or the house, and the language or the house it just starts to crumble down slowly but surely if it's not really maintained. Um, so I think we have to always build and have a good foundation, and you know, instead like the three little pigs, like one had straw and one had wood and one had brick, I think. Uh, I think that in language learning, I personally tried to have to be that pig with the brick house and not the straw house, because they're all houses, but we want to have a good foundation so that they can't be blown down by the wolf, which can be time and I guess forgetting the language and not really focusing on the language itself. Um, so yes, not stopping is good. There are maybe things that will make us want to stop, that make us think that we could stop learning a language or improving in a language. I lived in Germany for a year, and so I guess that situation in itself could make me believe, okay, what can I do now? I was there for a year. I can't really get better than this. But of course I can get better. I think that my German in Germany was rather mediocre, and people think that if they live in a country and they come back to their native land, then the language is just going to get worse, but that's not always the case. I think if you constantly use the language and you constantly internalize the language in your heart, then I think that everything will improve. And I do that. I mean, like with my German, I still do that every day. Um, and the people who say, "Oh, you shouldn't learn this word," I learn words that are kind of up there. I think I made a video, or I know I made a video how I'm learning German. Um, have my books here, my notebooks here. I guess this one was the first one I used in Germany. This one is the second one, and basically I wasn't really satisfied. I think that's how we improve, not being satisfied, being hungry for more. I guess thirsty for knowledge. I'm just translating something freely in my head in German. Thirsty for knowledge, and I started this one when I came back. This one has nouns. This one has verbs, adjectives, things, etc. And it just kept going, just building and building and building this house. And then after the yellow one, I use this is red. I got this from one of my best friends, Sabine, and I got this one from my friend Undine. And I just started this one, but I guess for vocabulary, like this is what I do to build vocabulary. Just all this stuff. Just no matter what, how weird the word is, it's just food for thought. I guess, or it's food for my brain, food for a different conversation, and who knows when it will come up in a conversation. Just I think writing them down and studying them from time to time helps with the memory. I can't stumble across a word one time and say that I would retain it. So that's why I use all my notebooks. I love these notebooks. So I guess constantly reading, constantly listening to podcasts, talking to native speakers in the language, and everything. And that'll definitely, without a doubt, improve the vocabulary, like your vocabulary in a foreign language. And I think reading's good. The more well-read a person is, I guess, even in I mean, my native language is English, and I don't read too much in English. I usually tend to read in German. But if someone is well read, then I think he or she usually has a better vocabulary than someone who does not read that much. Like, it just makes sense because that person stumbles upon more words, more expressions, and that person becomes more eloquent in his or her speech, and that's because of the vocabulary that the person sees and maybe sometimes hears as well. So I think that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, then shoot me a comment, and yeah, so let me see, did I write anything else down? No. But yeah, slowly but surely, I think we shouldn't try to increase our vocabulary too fast. Just learning a little bit at a time. Um, just a few words every day, and not stressing over it, having fun, because learning vocabulary can be a really interesting experience, especially sometimes if you actually remember the word or the situation in which you learned a new word. So that's fun, and it kind of makes for a good story sometimes. So yes, I will leave you with that. I tried to make it as fast as I could, but yeah, it was an interesting topic. So thank you for watching, and goodbye for now. Ciao!